One of the hardest things any of us will ever contend with is loss. And if you suffered a real one, you already know exactly what I mean. It comes out of nowhere and it takes you out. It's like getting T-boned in an intersection. There you are, driving along, minding your own business, tootling through a green light when, bam, some asshole runs the red and suddenly it's all airbags and shattered glass and the shriek of twisted metal. And then it's paramedics and CT scans and months of physical therapy. And here's the part nobody warns you about. Long after the metaphorical bruises fade and the cast comes off, that ache just won't go away. It won't let you go back to doing the things you used to do or enjoying the life you used to live. You think you should be through it by now, but it just won't let you go. If that's where you are right now, know this before we go one sentence further. You're not doing this wrong. There's nothing broken about you. What you're feeling is what loss feels like. So let's talk about it gently and see if we can't find you a little bit of air. You may have heard of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and her 5 stages of grief. There's denial, and then anger, bargaining, depression, and then finally acceptance. If you haven't, here's all you need to know. She noticed that when we face devastating loss, we tend to move through a series of emotional states on the way to making peace with it. Now, most people picture those stages like a staircase, just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and done. Climb the steps in order, and you graduate. But that's not how grief actually works. It isn't a staircase, it's a whirlpool. You don't march through the stages so much as you get spun around inside the first 4 of them, cycling back through over and over. And here's the thing about those first 4. While you're in them, it feels like you're underwater, drowning, fighting, gasping for air. You surface into anger and then get pulled back down into denial, thrash into bargaining, and then sink again into depression, round and round and round. Acceptance, that 5th stage, is the only place you get to breathe again. So why on earth would anyone resist the one stage where they finally get some air? Well, here's why I think we fight that 5th stage. Because from the outside, acceptance looks like death. It looks like giving up, like resignation, like you're saying it was okay, that you're fine with what happened, that you've let it go. And of course you'd fight that. Everything in you refuses to betray the person or the life or the future you once held dear. And so you cling, you grab the ropes of what once was, and you hang on, even as those ropes are pulled out of your hands, even as they tear the skin off of your palms. You cling to the driftwood of your old life because some part of you is convinced that if you just fight hard enough, hold on long enough, you can rebuild what was and make it real again. But some thresholds cannot be uncrossed. The loss of someone you love, the injury that ends the only career you ever wanted, the betrayal that can't be unknown, the diagnosis that changes everything. Something has shifted that simply cannot be shifted back, and deep down you already know this. And knowing it is terrifying because your mind is still so used to the old life that the idea of building a new one feels like a kind of dying. So here's what I want to offer you. Not a push, just a different way of seeing. Acceptance only looks like death from the outside. But from the inside, it's actually life. So here's what acceptance actually means. And this is the part that almost everybody gets wrong. So let's workshop it a little bit here. Acceptance does not mean you're okay with what happened. It never meant that. You are allowed to hate that it happened for the rest of your days. Acceptance means that you're okay with what is right now, in this present moment. It means you stop pouring your strength into the fight against a reality that has already changed, whether you accept it or not. And that distinction isn't just semantics, it's physiological. When we live in resistance, bracing, arguing with reality, refusing what already is, the body stays locked in a chronic stress response. It marinates in a chemical cocktail of cortisol and adrenaline that was only ever meant for short bursts of actual danger. Held too long, that state quietly wears you down. Resistance doesn't preserve the old life. It just erodes the one you still have. Acceptance is where your body finally gets to stand down. It's where the water goes still enough to breathe. It's not approval, just an end to the war with what already is right now. Here's the distinction that dissolves the whole fear. When I ask you to let go, I am not asking you to let go of what you lost, not to forget them or leave them behind or pretend that the old life didn't matter. That loss isn't the rope. That loss comes with you. What I'm asking you to release is the resistance, the grip, the exhausting, hand-shredding fight against a current that's already carrying you forward whether you want it or not. Because you don't actually recover from a loss like this, not in the sense of going back to who you were before. You integrate it. Writer Jerry Sittser, who lost his mother, his wife, and his daughter in a single car accident, put it better than I ever could in his book, A Grace Disguised. He wrote that catastrophic loss doesn't make us less unless we let it grind us down to nothing. It can make us more, though. He didn't get over the people he lost. He absorbed the loss until it became part of who he was. The soul, he says, is elastic. It can actually grow larger through suffering. The loss doesn't get erased, but it can become less a burden and more a companion. No longer only an echo of something painful, but something that walks with you and shapes who you're becoming. So how do you actually move forward? Slowly, imperfectly, toward a new vision, on new footing, with a new shape to your days? And I want to be honest about this part. It isn't one brave decision you make once and you're done. Wouldn't that be nice? It's 1,000 quiet re-decisions made again and again as the highs and lows of the aftermath keep rolling through. You won't avoid the emotional currents. Nobody does. You just have to go through them. But going through them with a clear heading, acceptance set as your direction, is a different journey than going through them blind, hoping that somehow, as time passes, life will randomly hurt less. I can tell you from experience, that's not much of a strategy. And I know this one from the inside. The day my now ex-wife and I decided to end our marriage, I wrote something and posted it publicly, mostly to hold myself to it. I said, allow the present moment and all it contains to simply be. And if you can allow it, you can probably accept it. And when you do, no more helplessness. And then you're in a powerful place to take action and create actual resolution. And I ended it with 3 words I still believe. Resistance is useless. I'd love to tell you that I accepted it all cleanly that day and sailed off peacefully, but I didn't. What followed were whole seasons of highs and lows that could have wrecked me. But acceptance was always that clear heading. And that made all the difference in how rough and how long the crossing turned out to be. Now, what if you're the one on the shore? Maybe you're not the one in the whirlpool. Maybe you're watching someone you care about thrash around in it, and every instinct you have is screaming at you to reach in and pull them out. Here's the hardest and most loving thing I can ask of you. Hold space, but don't rescue. You can't accept the loss for them. You can't yank someone to the 5th stage before they're ready. And if you try, you just become one more current for them to fight. What they need isn't a lifeguard hauling them to the shore. They need someone steady on the bank who won't look away, who won't rush them, who trusts that they can find their own heading. Presence over rescue. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can offer is just refusing to leave. I want to leave you with a question for wherever you're standing. If you're the one in the whirlpool, sit with this one, gently, no rush. Ask yourself, am I clinging to what I loved or to the fight against a life that looks different now? And if you're the one on the shore watching someone you care about in the whirlpool, ask yourself, am I holding space or am I trying to rescue? There's really no wrong answer here. There's only the quiet, honest looking. And on the far side of that looking is something that felt impossible while you were underwater. Air. A life that won't look like the old one, but that can still truly be good. If someone you love is caught in the whirlpool right now, consider sharing this with them. Sometimes just knowing that acceptance isn't the same as giving up is the first breath of air a person gets. And if you're really in it right now, if the water keeps closing over your head and you can't find the surface, please don't try to swim it alone. A good grief counselor or therapist can be the difference between drowning and breathing. Reaching for that kind of help isn't weakness, it's a lifeline. And if you'd like the fuller picture of how we move through seasons of transition and reinvention and reorient toward a new future, that's the heart of my new book, Surfing the Invisible Wave. You can find out all about it at invisiblewave.surf.